Our first movie is Creed, which I said right away because I wanted to see him rush to do the timestamp, even though it could just say 0. So, anyway.
2 seconds in, thank you.
The thing about Creed is, I remember hearing about it like as soon as Fruitvale came out. Ryan Coogler was going to make a movie about the son of Apollo Creed, starring Michael B. Jordan. And like as soon as he got, I'm guessing this was like something that he already had planned, because like as soon as Fruitvale had like a big reaction, it was like he just said, "Oh, I can do this now." I gotta be totally honest with you. When I first heard about the idea, I didn't think it would be made. I kind of thought it'd be something that would just kind of drift off, because nobody was sure if Stallone was going to be in it or not, and they just came off a movie like Fruitvale, and while acclaimed as it was, this seemed like a totally different direction than that. So it just kind of did its thing for a while, and then suddenly it was made, and now it's here. Just like that. That's how easy it is. When you've made Fruitvale, that's how easy it is.
Right.
So we start off, and immediately I'm a little cautious about it, because we begin with his name is Adonis Johnson, I believe is what he goes by.
Donnie Johnson.
So, and when we first see him, he is a child, and naturally, because he is destined to become a fighter, the first time we see him, he is this orphaned kid who takes his anger out on his life by beating the shit out of people inside a detention center. And immediately I know the whole Rocky franchise is known for being like the ultimate, kind of cliche, but in a good, endearing way.
Right.
But as soon as I saw young Adonis Creed beating the shit out of people because his life's shitty in a detention center, I was just like, wow, you could not have taken a more obvious backstory. No matter how hard you try, you could not have given him a more obvious backstory.
Nope.
And then he's taken in by Claire Huxtable.
Felicia Rashad for the win.
And then we jump straight ahead in time, and he is Michael B. Jordan over one fade out. And just a real quick transformation.
It'd save so much more time in movies if that just happened every time.
And of course, he is totally and completely jacked now. And obviously, because it's in his blood, fighting just ultimately comes naturally to him. Which I imagine is the point we're driving home with the whole detention center thing as well. Now, the thing about this is, when you have, because Fruitvale was such a movie about, like, realism that, it's kind of, I wouldn't in any way call it, like, stylized or anything. It's just kind of deals more in authenticity. So, it's very interesting to see that, with him, Coogler really coming out with this, directorial flair here. Because his presence behind the camera is very, very, noticeable, but not in, like, an overbearing way. Because there's, like, the certain camera movements where it's, like, when he's sparring with the guy and he gets hit, and the camera, like, it goes down with him on its side and stuff like that. There's a really, because this is, like, really, really fucking trendy now. I mean, it's always been, like, kind of a novelty thing, but, people really, really lately love the long take. And of course, the first fight we see with him, is all done in one take. which is really, really cool, even if it's getting a little played out, because in the video next week I'm going to talk about Victoria, and we'll go through this all over again, but don't worry about that for now. But yeah, he has a real... There's definitely something here to where it's not... The direction actually plays a part in kind of distinguishing it from the fact, because obviously it would... Honestly, I say what I do about it, but if this movie were to not have cliches in it, it would almost seem like it's not doing it right. Because that's just what comes with this genre, and that's kind of what makes it what it is. Not just for boxing movies, but just sports movies in general. But they also... And they don't necessarily always go the full cliche, particularly here, which is great. And there's the stuff where he's kind of coming into... Well, here's the thing that's kind of funny to me, that I had trouble taking my mind off for a little bit. I'm just going to get this out of the way real quick. Is it really, really funny to anybody else that Adonis Creed is a character who is very much... He goes by Johnson because he doesn't want to necessarily be known with his father's last name. Because it's, I'm always going to be compared to him, and that's a name I have to live up to, and it's something like that, and he just is always, no matter what, going to be compared to this monstrously famous athlete. And isn't it really funny that a guy named Michael Jordan is playing a guy who feels overshadowed by a very popular athlete's name?
That's funny.
But
that's really funny, actually.
With that out of the way, there was a really great scene towards the beginning. It's a bit on the nose, but it really works in context, which is the scene where he goes on YouTube and he finds Apollo Creed fights, and then he projects them onto the wall, and it's not... he's so opposed to that idea. Like, you would think in any other movie where it's the son of a famous athlete, you would think he would take the side of the projection that Creed is on and fight the other guy as if he is Apollo. But instead, he stands on the other side and is the opponent and is throwing his kind of shadow punches at the projection of Apollo. Number one, you can say it's, he's avoiding the whole trying to become him thing. And secondly, the whole... He has aggressions because he was never here because he died and stuff like that. Yeah, he kind of like is mad at Apollo for dying before he was born, which obviously is a whole psychological thing that people who have gone through that obviously go through. So you can't really fault him. There's another thing that would seem overly flashy in another movie, but they do it in a way to where it's not necessarily in your face, and that's no matter where they are, every time we're introduced to a fighter, their stats come up on a freeze frame.
That was done well.
Because I can just see how that would go in like a more poorly directed movie. And but Coogler handles it really well here. I guess it's time to talk about the fact that not only did we get Stallone back, but he's kind of a major character. He is he's Mickey now. I think I actually read somewhere that he is Sylvester Stallone is the same age in this that Burgess Meredith was in the original Rocky.
Wow.
So yeah, because when it first was decided, when I first heard word that Stallone was going to be in Creed, that Rocky spinoff that Ryan Coogler was making, which is all I knew it as back in 2013, I was thinking it was going to be like a small part. Like, he was just going to kind of be there in, like, one scene or two, and then that's about it. But, he's fully taking on the role of Mickey naturally. And it's interesting to see where the characters become now that everybody is kind of gone now. Because he doesn't have Apollo, he doesn't have Mickey, he doesn't have Adrian, and we lost Paulie in between movies. Mm-hmm. So, that's... Rocky only has Rocky now. So... and that's kind of, we have to do the whole story where he has to convince Rocky to do it, and he's not sure he wants to do it, and then he kind of somewhat eventually is into it and all that. I thought the idea of giving him an illness is a bit, given what all is already going on here and all the emotional depth that we've already covered, that was probably overkill. I don't really know that that was necessary, and in the grand scheme of things, even more so. But I guess it's just I gotta be totally honest with you. I don't really know what that was for, except we have a more dramatic situation here, I suppose.
Make people believe something may happen that may or may not. Build the emotion.
So yeah, Stallone is really, really good here, obviously, and it's definitely you would think it's almost like kind of a well, the thing about it is he's already proved a lot of people wrong when he did Rocky Balboa in 2006, because the whole thing they were gonna make a new Rocky movie and everybody was like, well, he's so old now. What's he gonna do? Go out there on a walker and shit? So Stallone said, well, obviously, I'm going to make a Rocky movie where Rocky is actually old, so... because Rocky Balboa surpassed so many expectations back then.
Oh, yeah.
And it's still, like, one of the more beloved of the series today. Like, I still hear people talk about it very fondly. I should probably mention that real quick. As far as me going into this, I do get a lot of enjoyment out of the Rocky series, except for I know it's a cliche. It's a long since a cliche by now, but it's probably a cliche because it's true. Yes, with the exception of Rocky V, I am on that train. That fuck you, Rocky V train. So, but honestly, I watched them with my brother, kind of in quick succession.
Mm-hmm.
I've only actually seen the original movie is the only one I've seen more than once. I haven't watched them since we kind of did that thing. It was around the time Rocky Balboa came out.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from Rocky V, I did like all of them. Obviously, the first one is like something really special. That's just on a whole. I already reviewed it, but so you already know.
There's a versus.
Yeah. But 2, 3, and 4, like 2. I remember it taking a while for me to get into 2, but as it went further, it got really good. And then by the time we got to 3 and 4, obviously, it was pretty much in a self-parody territory, but still in a really, really fun and enjoyable way. Rocky 4 has gotten such this resurgence of love as time has gone on, where it's like the ultimate... where it's like 3/4 montages and then Dolph Lundgren's character and all that. And then, as I said, Rocky Balboa kind of brought us back down to the kind of special quality the original had, where it took itself seriously, but also it was really, really, hit those emotional chords and did everything really, really... There was a real potency to all of it. And this one obviously continues off of that. This is like, you could almost like say this is a direct sequel to Rocky Balboa, really. It just happens to be focused on another character. So, yeah, it goes right along with that. So I think people who are just fans of the series in general are gonna, like, go crazy for this. Like, they have nothing to worry about. However, I will say, talking on the first one, we're introduced to another character who is Tessa Thompson, the girl from Dear White People, as a love interest. Now, normally this is the part where I jump on the fact that a movie has a love story for no reason, but obviously here that's not true, because you look at the original Rocky, that movie was more a love story than anything else. It was more a love story than a boxing movie. So having a love story here totally is appropriate and fits. And that's fine. That's great. And for the most part it's fine, but it reached one point to where I almost resented it completely. I almost resented the love story's existence entirely over this one scene. Almost. Obviously, the whole idea is that he doesn't want to be known by the Creed name because there's just too much going on with that. Well, and he's mentioned that he's a boxer and stuff like that, but for some reason, no matter how well the movie is doing up to this point, for some reason we have to stop and think, for some reason, that every movie love story has to have the "you lied to me" moment. Those moments are really, really stupid, and they really, really drag a movie down, but this one kind of takes it to a whole new level. Because generally, when it's the "you weren't telling the truth" thing, it's because somebody has legit been lying.
Mm-hmm.
But here I'm not quite sure what her problem is, but she's pissed off because she knew everything about him up to this point, except that his father was Apollo Creed. Which he has a whole bunch of reasons for that. But we have one scene here. Mind you, they don't dwell on it or anything, so I'm blowing it a little out of proportion. But it's just, I just didn't quite understand that why exactly she feels so betrayed by this, because she's really offended by this.
Yeah.
That she knew that he was a boxer, and I think she even knew that he was like the son of a boxer, because she said the thing that she didn't like was that she didn't know he was the son of the most famous boxer ever. And I just had no idea what the fuck this fight scene was doing. And why this was a big deal. But that's in there, so we have to deal with it. Another thing, I missed some things talking about Stallone here. Another thing that I was thinking was seeing the progression of who he was in the original movie and who he is now. Because this is the first movie, I think, that wasn't written by Stallone.
Right.
The other 6 were. So we got to kind of keep the consistencies. And there were, like, the stuff, not just from the back stuff, but the stuff from Rocky Balboa, where it's like, he went to the cemetery to visit Adrian and Paulie, and I was like, is the chair still in the tree? Please tell me he still has the chair in the tree. And it's exactly like their scenes in Rocky Balboa. Which I remember after 9 years still. that says something about Rocky Balboa, doesn't it? And one thing I do remember, though, is he's obviously taking on the old wise man part now. Which I was concerned about, because we learn in the earlier movies that I know he was much younger, and obviously you get wiser, but I think we're also supposed to assume it's from all the hits he's taken as well. The idea that in the earlier movies that Rocky isn't that smart. Like, I specifically remember a line in Rocky 2 when he tells Adrian that he can't tell time. He can't tell time very well, anyway. So when he takes on this old wise man role, and I was thinking, like, are they going to stick with that, or is he like just totally smart now? Or but then there is a quick moment when he's giving Creed some tips, and he has trouble spelling shadowboxing.
It's W's there.
And I was like, okay, yes, that's okay. We're on the right path, and that's something the old Rocky would have done.
Right.
So, but on that though, about focusing on the older movies, this is totally a movie that could have taken the cheap way out and tried to cash in on a lot of nostalgia points.
Right.
And that stuff is in there, like clearly the shots of him in the hood and the hat running and stuff like that are like replicas of shots from the montage in the original movie. And then there's the stair scene, which is really, really great.
Yeah.
And kind of the emotional peak of the movie. But they don't necessarily overdo, like, all that stuff is there, but in the context it feels like it fits there. It's not just, hey, look, this is what you loved before, here it is again, which is what a lot of movies do. I was given Spectre shit for this relatively recently. And then, of course, there is the moment where they could have, I don't know, I'm still conflicted on how I wanted this scene to go down, because I like the idea that they're not trying too hard for the nostalgia, because you spend the whole movie waiting for it.
Yep.
The whole movie, your ears are open, just waiting for it. And yes, they do play the original theme before the last fight starts. but it's like for only 5 seconds. It's like the smallest little excerpt of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was starting to think, like, I really like that they didn't go for the full-on nostalgia factor, but at the same time I was thinking, I don't know, would I have... I don't know. After saying that, I probably would have loved it if they played the whole thing anyway.
Would you what would you thought if Donnie came out with the red, white, and blue top hat and To Live in America?
I was waiting for that, too.
I kind of was, too.
The trunks are enough of a callback to that.
Yeah, I like that. That was done really well.
That's another one of those ones where the nostalgia is there, but it's not like, here's everything you loved. It's just a little piece of it. So...
And that's what works best, honestly.
So yeah, only issue here is I had a splitting headache while watching this movie. Not from the movie or anything, it was from before. So I feel like I could have liked it a lot more than I did. So I'm probably just going to need to see it again. But like I said, I'm probably just going to have to like marathon them again because like the first one, for some reason, much as I like them, the first one's the only one I've seen more than once. So I'm going to have to do that sometime. But... yeah, from what I've said here, still, regardless of that, there's a whole lot to love here. So, I don't even think there's anything else to say. People who go to this for a Rocky movie, even though it doesn't have Rocky's name on it, obviously, this is still very, very much a Rocky movie.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, this is pretty much exactly what everybody was looking for with this.
This was my number 6 when we did the most anticipated for the rest of the year, and if I knew then what I know now, I probably would have put it a lot higher, because it just delivered in every single way possible.
Just to kind of throw this out there for the kind of comparison factor of what's been going on this year, it's much better than Southpaw.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So, I mean,
which was higher on my list.
There's only like a half difference in my star rating.
Mm-hmm.
A half star difference in my rating, but still, I can still comfortably say it's a lot better than Southpaw. So yes. Okay. Our second movie is The Good Dinosaur. Something that hasn't happened before. Pixar did 2 movies in 1 year. Because Finding Dory fucked everything up. So, okay, this is kind of like, you remember back when I'm not comparing quality here, just the idea of what Disney was doing when they did this. When back in the early 90s, Disney was really, really focused on Pocahontas.
Right.
Like, they were putting so much effort and so much time into Pocahontas that they pretty much made The Lion King just to kill time. Just to, like, have a filler in there. To say, we're still working, here's something to hold you over till Pocahontas comes out. And The Lion King is their masterpiece.
Oh, yeah.
So, this was kind of going on simultaneously with Inside Out, I think.
Yeah.
Where it was kind of... I mean, we're getting this one second, but it's almost kind of like this is kind of what they were doing to be still working while we were all waiting for Inside Out. So, yeah. From the most creative production company and possibly ever, we're getting a fucking dinosaur movie. Okay. People seem to really be liking this.
I haven't really heard anything from anyone.
So there was, I told you while we were watching it, that people were going to eat this up.
Oh, I figured you're correct, but I haven't heard anything personally.
I don't know what it is with me this year with dinosaur movies, but maybe the people who watch this one will be more civil than the people who watch the other one.
I hope so.
I guess we'll see.
I don't want any more thumbs down.
Well, you did put Disney in your name, so...
I know.
It probably will look weird to have this on your channel, but let me just talk about this.
Doesn't say Sarah owned Disney's movie reviews on it.
Well, for starters, we're apparently taking place in an alternate universe, because the opening scene is the meteor that's supposedly coming to Earth to kill all the dinosaurs, but it misses. And then it says 1 million years later, and then everything's great. And The thing about it, though, is, the animation, most of the animation is spectacular. It's really, really vast and really, it's got a real realistic quality to it, though. Like, it looks like almost like filmed footage in some scenes. And it's just really, the attention to detail is crazy, too. All of this, it's really, really great looking. And we had no choice but to see it in 3D, which I normally hate.
Right.
But it looked really good in 3D.
Agreed.
However, now that I'm done talking about the landscapes, we get dinosaurs that look like they're on a cereal box. And human characters that walked off the set of The Croods.
Yeah.
So I say walk off the set of an animated movie. That's funny. But, so I'm not quite sure. That's really jarring. To see this incredible animation all around us, and then our protagonist walks on the screen, and he looks like he's like from those, what do they call them? It's like a mockbuster version of The Land Before Time is what he looks like he came from.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, maybe they were more busy with Inside Out when it was like, hey guys, we kind of need our characters. That's, okay.
It kind of shows if that were the case.
It's like the animators making balloon animals. It's like the equivalent of that. It's like, okay, here's your dinosaur. Go away. So, our protagonist, whose name I have forgotten.
Arlo.
Okay.
I do remember that.
And he's got a mother, a father, and 2 siblings. He's got Buzz McAllister is his older brother, and
Yeah.
there was like, what, a sister or something?
Yes.
Okay. So, what happens here is he is going to go out and he and his father go out, and then wouldn't you know it, it's a Disney movie. So take a wild guess. When it comes to parents in Disney movies, the word spoiler does not exist. Okay.
Right.
So he and his father go out, and something tragic happens. And it's him looking down at his father, and an unstoppable force comes in and takes him out. So, if you're looking for a big zoom out while he screams no, it wasn't there, but you were waiting for it, weren't you? Well, we're not done with that shit, so just hold it right there.
You want to know who they were? Because I don't think you truly remember.
I looked them up, but I've forgotten.
It's Jeffrey Wright and Frances McDormand. Yeah.
Well, alrighty.
Thought you want to know that.
They could really be doing better things, couldn't they?
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, no, Frances McDormand was in Transformers 3, so she's already... Okay. So, now, okay. I lost what I was talking about now. Oh, yes, I was just talking about, okay. Actually, let's continue on with this point I was on, even though I said we were going to go to it later. So, we have that scene. That sounds familiar, right? I know you can't just narrow it down to one movie, but obviously one stands out when I tell you the scenario. So, that means that the kid is on his own now. For a reason I do not recall, for the rest of the movie, he's on a journey by himself. Leaving his mother to tend to his broken home. So, he is out doing his thing, and he comes across a variety of characters. There are a few feral creatures who come out, and one is dumber than the other ones. So, I don't know if that's giving you any vibes. And they accuse him of trespassing. So, mind you, there's only one of him, so they couldn't say a trio of trespassers, but I believe they would have if given the chance. Mm-hmm. But with that aside, the movie continues, and there's a scene where we have these feral creatures, and they are amidst what is soon to be a stampede. And I'm going to tell you how this stampede begins. If your guess is that our little protagonist is trying to make his roar more intimidating, I get it. It's kind of hard to say this when a company is ripping itself off. It's kind of hard to distinguish
Nicholas Sparks does this all the time.
if that's a crime or not. But if everything I just told you is not enough already, where you're going, wow, that's really close, our protagonist needs a little motivation. So our protagonist really needs to get going on his quest and decide that he's going to save the day. So, who is going to motivate him? Who is the one person that can push him to his goal and make him realize what's been inside him the whole time? Is it a vision of his dead father? I don't know. If that sounds familiar to you, I don't know. But I'm not saying that's what happens. I may be totally talking about another movie entirely that we all know and love and have for the past 21 years. I'm not necessarily saying that happens in this movie. Exactly. Or maybe I am. Now, on top of that, we're not done here. As I said this while we were watching it. Apparently it's been confirmed that other people think this as well. A lot of the settings look like Brother Bear. I was getting vibes like that. Mm-hmm. And then there is a moment where we meet a character voiced by Steve. I actually never looked to confirm it was Steve Zahn, but I'm pretty sure it was Steve Zahn. That voice is unmistakable. Steve Zahn comes flying into the story, and he's basically an airborne version of Crush from Finding Nemo. For about 20 seconds. And then from out of fucking nowhere, he's the antagonist. And that's the thing, is he's basically our antagonist just so we can have a climax. Because we meet him once, and we establish that he's bad news. And then the only other time we see him in the movie is the climax. When they have to fight him. Oh, and speaking of the climax, there's a scene at the beginning when the father is being all fatherly and talking about not going near the elephant graveyard. I mean, not going near the river. So, he says, whatever you do, you stay the fuck away from the river, because the river is dangerous and you will die there. So, are we taking bets on where the climax takes place? Anybody? Does anybody want to take a bet on this? Anybody at all?
Don't take bets with AJ, trust me.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay. Now that we've talked about all that stuff, that it feels like it was just borrowing from other shit, because they just kind of... Dinosaurs and Pixar. I think they kind of put together that if you just put these things in one place together, people will just love you unconditionally.
Right.
So they didn't give a fuck what they put in this movie. So they were just gonna take, mostly from themselves, and put it in here, knowing that people would just take to it anyway. As long as it looks good. But I was flabbergasted to find that there is a scene where the kid that he has befriended and our dinosaur protagonist eat what I believe was like tainted berries. And I swear to God, they basically, I swear to God, they basically recreate the drug scene from 21 Jump Street. Not the effects, the scene with Rob Riggle, when they're like hallucinating. And you can almost take this to the scene in the second one, when they're in their separate worlds and like Creed's playing, and the ass and titties song and all that. I really felt like, almost like it was a reference to 21 Jump Street, that scene. Like, because it was so close to me. But, okay. And it's worth noting, despite all of this, that this movie went through production troubles. Shocking when you look at the outcome. So much so that like the entire voice cast was changed. Like I don't know if like the original voice cast like did the work and then they replaced them all, or if they like had them and then they just changed them before anything went down. I don't know, but that just seems Yeah, there's a lot off about this movie, but I understand. I don't know. I somewhat understand that some people just kind of love this stuff in general. Especially, obviously, dinosaurs are a big thing now because of you know what. But I just, yeah, like I said, I don't know what it is with me in dinosaur movies, especially when other people love them. But I just, I just was really, and that's the thing, is Pixar is really known for all their, I don't know what's happening to me. I don't know if it's me or if it's Pixar, but one of us is fucking up. They are very much known for how emotional their movies are. They have some really, really just completely stab you in the heart and leave you on the side of the road scenes. But you'll notice when I talk about Inside Out did not have that effect on me, despite Pixar making a movie about emotions after everything else they've done. You'd think that would be their peak, and it was for a lot of people. But I just don't... It seems like every other video I do now, I get to talk about the decline of Inside Out in my mind. The decline that it's on.
You're on that mountain by yourself, sir.
I know. But there is... there are scenes in this movie. Like I said, I turned you... There was nobody else in the theater because we saw it like really late after Creed.
It was 9:35.
Well...
But it's a kid's 3D movie.
Yeah. So we reach the end, and there are these scenes going on. Not scenes of death or carnage or anything, but just scenes. And I turned to you, and I was almost getting angry, because I was like, this is the fucking scene where everybody's gonna cry. And then everybody's gonna go on Twitter and talk about how much they cried. And everybody's gonna be all, I don't really cry at anything, but the end of The Good Dinosaur had me weeping, man. I'm a grown man, but I cried during The Good Dinosaur. Aren't I special?
I've already heard this, by the way.
I don't know why I acted surprised by that. I'm saying this because I do believe that that's exactly what was gonna go down.
Yep.
Whatever you want to do. Yeah, the stupidest shit in movies has gotten to me before, so I'm not judging you. It's just... I don't know what's going on with mine and Pixar's relationship now, but we're in a dark place, you and me, Pixar. I don't know what we're doing right now, but we need, like, I don't know if we need counseling, or we need some kind of mediation or something, but you and I are just not seeing eye to eye anymore, and I don't... I don't know what's going on. Toy Story 3, I think. Like I said, I admired Inside Out for its ideas until I really started thinking about just how much really isn't that original in it. So Toy Story 3 is kind of where me and Pixar left off, and that's 5.5 years now. And they have had, Cars 2, Brave, Monsters University, Inside Out, and The Good Dinosaur. That's... I don't know. So, we'll just... I think also, the kind of carryover love for Inside Out, because when Inside Out came out, everybody was very quick to do the whole Pixar's back thing. And that's probably going to carry over to this. So, like, if this had come out, in 2014 when they didn't have anything, if this had followed up Monsters University, I don't think people would have taken to it. But maybe they would. I don't know. That's just my guess, given the circumstances. But long story short, this just was not for me.
Speaking of short, you don't want to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The animated short's great.
Yeah, it is.
So it has that going for it. So yeah, it's worth. I would. Okay, the movie's not as bad as I make it out to be. It's just, it just flabbergasts me that they seem so out of ideas.
You're like a jilted lover right now with Pixar. You really are.
So, but yes, the animated short is great, and I hope it does well. So
I think it will.
We will see. Yes. It's very it's got more heart to it than anything in the Good Dinosaur, clearly.
Yeah.
And it's definitely so. Oh yeah, what I was getting at when I was saying it's not as necessarily as bad as I'm trying to, as I don't think it's as bad as it probably sounded like I thought, but it's so I would say it might possibly be worth seeing strictly for the short, especially since most people will probably love the movie itself anyway. Fine. Our last movie is Victor Frankenstein, which is made like $3 at the box office, so this might be your first time hearing about it. I don't know. You probably saw a poster in the lobby or something. But
If that.
So, Victor Frankenstein has got a really bad reputation right now. Not many critics are big fans of Max Landis, the son of John Landis, who just recently this year wrote American Ultra, but he's also the writer of Chronicle, which I must mention every time I love.
Wrestling isn't wrestling.
And we're going back to Michael B. Jordan when we talk about Chronicle too. Okay. Well, I obviously was really not anticipating Victor Frankenstein, like, at all.
Nope.
Because the first thing I asked you was, there was this idea that when Dracula Untold came out, the idea was that they were going to reboot the whole Universal Monsters thing.
Right.
Was this even done by Universal? I don't even remember which company did it. I would think they'd almost have to because of a rights thing.
Not necessarily.
But I honestly don't remember which company did this.
20th Century Fox.
Okay. I was thinking that, but I was trying to think if I was confusing it with what. Okay. No, okay. Yes, it is Fox.
Different rights is what it is.
Okay. Well, the thing here is I was concerned that this was like kind of a continuation of that. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's been put to death now, thankfully. But with this run of movies like Dracula Untold and like Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman 10 years ago and fucking I, Frankenstein and stuff like that. We haven't had a good Frankenstein movie since 1974 with Young Frankenstein.
Even Igor, the animated movie from several years
yeah.
ago. Most people forgot about that. John Cusack.
Yeah, so I guess maybe Hotel Transylvania counts, but I'm talking like...
Yeah, that's a good...
I mean like the actual Frankenstein story.
Yeah, I got you.
So I was concerned, obviously,
Well,
because
yeah.
we don't have a good track record with this.
Nope.
But thankfully, this was giving me more vibes like Joe Johnston's The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro from 2010. That's the vibe I was getting from this movie, and I love that version of The Wolfman. I thought it was really, really well done. But I didn't get there immediately. This movie does have a rocky start because it's well, speaking of the term rocky, this was the second movie this week where the title was dropped at a very convenient time, where Creed starts with Felicia Rashad telling about his father, and he's like, what was his name? Dramatic fade out, and then the title comes up. And then, sure enough, in this one, McAvoy is fleeing the room, and Radcliffe says, wait, what's your name? Boom, title.
It feels so much like Sherlock Holmes, it's not even funny. Same setup and everything.
Now, I don't mean to scare you off for the maybe one or two people that know what I'm talking about, but when this movie started, I was thinking about The Bride. The Bride is a not very well-known movie, to my understanding, that is a remake of Bride of Frankenstein that came out in the 80s, where Frankenstein was played by Sting. And Jennifer Beals was the bride, and I believe Clancy Brown was the monster.
Of course he was, because he does everything.
Yeah, basically the same makeup he'd have in Highlander a few years later. And that movie's so terrible. It's as bad as it sounds, let me tell you.
I can imagine it being worse than it sounds.
So, I was getting vibes of that movie at the start, on top of the fact that it was also extremely stylized. There is a moment for a while there, because like he's a doctor and everything, he sees like everything in X-ray. It's like the scenes from what was it? Was it Romeo Must Die, the Jet Li movie, where every time he'd kill somebody, we'd see the X-ray of their bones breaking.
It only made $3 million, by the way.
Holy shit.
3.5 according to this.
So, it's very, and the point where there's a moment where, obviously McAvoy's playing Dr. Frankenstein. The dude in the coat that says it's alive and stuff like that. Got the hair. Well, the opening of this movie is him fighting circus performers. And he's like jumping off shit. Like he's Neo.
It's parkour at its finest.
And that's the funny thing, is that shit never happens again.
Nope.
That is the only scene with like Matrix-style fighting in it. And then he's just like a crazy-ass doctor for the rest of the movie. It's like, where are those fighting skills and how do you practice them? How did that even go down? But, okay. Want to mention something right away, though. Despite the fact that we do have that really rocky start, where I was like, what in the fuck is this gonna be?
Yeah.
We have a line in the narration that kind of won me over. I was prepared, like I was waiting, I was like, yep, movie, you are 2 words away from making me fucking hate you, let's just get it over with. But not quite. I don't know, I mean, it's still kind of that thing, but not to the degree that would make me hate it.
Right.
Obviously, this is another retelling of a story we already know. And we know what this means. The narrator comes on and you're like, oh shit, here it comes. Here come those words. Just end my misery, please. But they don't say it. They don't actually do the whole, this isn't the story you think you know thing.
Thankfully they did.
I was waiting for it. I was ready to hate the movie the second I heard the words. But they didn't come. Instead, they say something that's more akin to, this is going to be that story, but there's going to be new stuff that you didn't know. So, they plan on sticking to the story, they're just gonna put some new shit in it. And I was like, oh, I kind of resurfaced within myself, and I was like, oh, well, I don't hate it right away, so that's a good start. And despite the Matrix fighting and the Bride vibes, I was never against this movie at the start. I was just like, this is just weird. I don't know what I'm watching or what they're going for. But then once it finds its footing and it gets going, I really took to it. This movie's really entertaining. And it's clearly got a bad reputation, but I'm sure it's real. I haven't read the reviews, but I'm sure they're blown out of proportion. And if there's anything bad, if there's something that they hate about it, you can probably pinpoint what it is, but it doesn't, when a movie's this entertaining, it doesn't matter. Because this movie is not setting out to be like, a fucking classic or anything.
No. It's
just kind of, yeah.
It's a fun little popcorn movie.
And they, I was also concerned about something else, and that was the appearance of Daniel Radcliffe. Because when we first see him at the circus, he really is Igor. He's got the hunch, and he's got the, they got him in, like, the circus paint and everything. But I knew from the poster he was not going to look like that the whole time.
Right.
And they took his hunch away, like, immediately. That's the first thing McAvoy does when he gets to the house. Is take Igor's hunch away. And that was kind of disappointing because I would have been really interested to see Radcliffe play this part entirely as the Igor that we know.
Yeah.
Because honestly, this day and age, putting Igor as he was in a modern day movie is kind of risky because you can come off probably making it like really fucking stupid. Because we don't really have like a Marty Feldman today that can pull it off for like a relatively modern compared to 1931 and 35, for instance. But it's still, I really think he could have really done well with a more like physically demanding part, and it would have been really interesting to see that play out. So he doesn't have near as much to work with once he looks like Daniel Radcliffe with long hair. And nothing else. But he still does it fine. He has the timid thing going on well, and he's still kind of... You can kind of tell he's still the person he was at the beginning with the hunch within himself. And that's as deep as this movie gets.
Wow.
But what I really, really want to talk about, the thing that really made me stick to this movie is McAvoy. This is a really over-the-top performance, but in the best possible way. McAvoy in this movie is so fun to watch do this, because the great thing about it is, given the premise and the title, obviously, we already know from the get-go that Frankenstein is an insane character. Like, this dude is completely off his rocker. He takes the parts of dead bodies and wants to bring them back to life. He does it with a chimpanzee creature named Gordon first. But clearly, like, when we see, like, the eyes by themselves and all that, and all the different body parts, now he just nonchalantly throws around a lung or a heart or eyeballs or whatever. This dude's out of his fucking mind. And McAvoy plays it that way so well. But the great thing about that is, when you're dealing with an insane character who is your title character in a movie like this, the question is whether he's the protagonist or the threat. And through most of the movie, we have no idea, because of the way McAvoy plays him. Because at one point, he's kind of our likable protagonist that we want to see succeed and do what he's been wanting to do. But then we look and we see that, as I've been saying, this guy is fucking crazy. And we don't know if he is a threat to the lives of the more... I struggle with the word innocent in this movie for almost anybody, but around the people that are the closest to innocent we're going to get, for a long time you kind of wonder if he's going to go into antagonist mode at some point. And he has that fine line. The line is totally blurred about which one he is as the movie goes on. And he does all that great. There is also, despite all the over-the-topness and stuff like that, there are scenes where he has to kind of bring it down a little bit, and that's also really well done. It's kind of like when he... Actually, I don't know how this compares at all, but I'm going to use it as an example anyway. The real acting he had to do in Days of Future Past, where you go to an X-Men movie and you think it's going to be like this superhero movie that doesn't have to... Acting is really not a key player in it. But he gives a great performance in Days of Future Past. And he really finds those, like, the emotional core of these really over-the-top fictional characters. And that really, really comes through here. So, that's, yes, that's a really fun performance to watch. We have, Jessica Brown Findlay as the love interest to Igor. And she does the angelic thing. She's like the acrobat that like steals his heart, and he's kind of she's basically Reese Witherspoon in Water for Elephants.
Yep.
And she's going after Harry Potter this time instead of I was gonna say Edward, but we'll say Cedric just to keep things.
Makes more sense to me.
When she talks, it's the writing kind of screws her over a little bit. There's actually a moment that's really funny to me where, to kind of just show you how useless the character is, there's a moment where we're heading to our climax, and they're basically talking about what's gonna go down, and she says to Radcliffe, well, if you're going to do that, you're not going alone. And we're like, oh, she's gonna, like, team up with him? This acrobat who's been in the hospital for most of the movie is going to team up with him, and there's going to be a big action climax? Because it's a big thing when she says, you're not going alone. And then the whole climax happens without her. And then at the end, she's just standing there. Like, we never see her during the climax, and then when it's all over, she's just there, and I was like, what happened to not going alone? What were you doing? But that's all good. And that's also another thing, when she immediately recognizes him, after he's had his hunch taken away and he doesn't have the makeup, even though that's the only way she's seen him, and she like falls instantly in love with him practically. Well, they make a big deal at the beginning about the idea that he's wanted for the murder of some of those circus performers that died in the Matrix fight. So they put his face and Frankenstein's face all over the walls of the city on wanted posters. And when she sees him again, and she's like, oh my god, it's you! I recognize you, oddly enough. Never once does it come up with her that he is wanted so much that his face is plastered on every wall in the city. It just never comes up. So yes, it's probably stuff like that the critics will be calling out. But, you know, in a movie like this, doesn't matter. I mean, I know. If this were a movie that I hated, I would be bringing all of that stuff down. I know.
Of course.
But with like I said though, if you're entertained by the movie and that's what it does, you can just say fuck that. Who cares? There's movies that I really, really go deep into pick apart when I really, really hate them. It's because what else are you going to talk about? Because the movie's a piece of shit. But here, I just want to talk about how much fun I had. So, that's the thing. We also have, talking about Dracula Untold, I kind of flinched for a second because Charles Dance appeared. And obviously, Charles Dance is great. He's got a lot of great roles on his resume. It's just, he also happened to be in Dracula Untold, and I was trying to kind of think of how far away from that movie that this movie is, and then, oh, Charles Dance, you're a reminder, please go somewhere else. Please. But, you know, it doesn't matter. He's fine. If I had a really the biggest issue I probably have with this movie is I felt like the climax went the wrong way. Mm. There is a moment during the climax where I was like, this is gonna go in a really good direction. I really like where this is heading. And then they don't do it. And it's this big action climax that's just kind of, it's like, no, this is just not the direction I thought that was going. So, but still, the rest of the movie kind of makes up for that. That and the rocky beginning, the rest of the movie makes up for. Technically, it's really great. The production and costume design is like just as good as any period piece, if not better. Like the really, you know, beloved period pieces too. Like this, the text and really, really went into this. There are some times where you can tell it's like a CG city on like the overhead views, but like the interior shots and all that are fucking amazing. And really, really fantastic. And it's also shot really well, for the most part. When it's not being overly stylized, it looks really, really good. Like, this is... Yeah, it even felt... It did not feel like I was kind of watching the same movie when you'd have this really fun, campy, over-the-top stuff, and then you'd have something that was like... It was almost like a legit period piece with all the really great, vast shots and all the really, you know, meticulous production design, all of it. There's a lot to like about this movie, in my opinion, but number one, just based on its premise alone, people are going to pick it apart, and that's if they even see it. Which apparently is not going to be a lot of people.
Unfortunately, this movie will probably leave just as quick as it came.
Yeah, so it's the day it came out, it was in our smallest theater, so...
Yeah.
And sure enough, there were only 3 people in our showing. There was nobody in the showing before us.
Right.
So, and that was in the afternoon, late afternoon, like the 4 and the 7.
And I'll shoot with you as well. Yesterday, when I worked, because obviously I worked Thanksgiving, there were nobody in the first showing, nobody in the second showing, and then that one girl and those 2 people in the right hand side.
She came back. Oh, no, okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Now. Okay.
They're the only ones that were in the 7. I don't know what the 9s did, but I mean, that's what the 7 did. So, I mean, it took like not even 5 people for the day. That's just ridiculous.
Well, I think it also...
You people still watching the Coopers, too. Come on. Seriously, people.
I don't think it would have done well anyway,
No.
but,
like, who's the target demographic here?
Yeah, I was just about to say the Good Dinosaur and Creed are out, but then I was like, I don't think those fans cross paths, so I don't know what the problem is.
Really.
I think it's just the fact that all the other movies like this fucking suck.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's if people have, you know, low expectations going in or just don't want to see it at all, I totally get why.
Right.
Because the past many movies we've had like this, everything between The Wolfman from 2010 and this, anything like this fucking sucks. So I totally get that.
Would you put Crimson Peak in this lineup too?
Why people wouldn't be, no.
Well, I mean, like the Gothic style.
I'm just talking more like trying to resurrect the
classic monsters.
Resurrect.
I know. That's fine.
Okay, we're done here.
I can tell when you're making jokes you don't want to make. That's when it's time to take it home. So that's gonna end another edition of AJ's movie reviews. But first, before we go, let's do some star mounts. Creed.
3.
Good Dinosaur.
2.
Victor Frankenstein.
3.
All right.
That's a very generous 3, obviously. Like to say Victor Frankenstein and Creed are on the same level, but it's just the entertainment value of Victor Frankenstein's too much to. Yeah.
One's fun, and one's extremely memorable.
Okay.
That's gonna end another edition of AJ's movie reviews. Just like I said, next week we're gonna be going into Krampus. No idea what's gonna end up with Krampus.
I don't know. No idea.
Tomorrow, stay tuned. November time.
We're getting really close to Room.
Yeah, we are. November time, which means it is our November Academy Awards prediction video. AJ and myself and Ashley will probably be an addendum at the very end. And Sunday, Brand New Verses, your cryptic comment is Solidarity.
So nice. We're getting a prediction video out on time.
No lie, man. Which means now...
There's no confusion now.
Next month, when we get our video in December, that will be December's video, and that's when we go for broke. Every single Academy Awards category predicted for December, and that's... I'm not even... I don't even want to think about that. That's going to be crazy.
We'll be like 2 weeks away from nomination.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're really close right now. So that's going to end another edition of AJ's Movie Reviews. And AJ, any parting words?
That's it.